Oh, okay. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Just got off work about an hour ago.
Nice.
How's the off season been going for you?
So far, so good. Finished up recruiting. We're super excited about the team that we're going to put on the court hopefully next year. And so now this time of year, really the biggest focus is recruiting for 22 and subsequent years, and then also summer camps and stuff like that, fundraising ventures. So we're knee deep in that sort of thing now.
How do you start your recruiting prep process after the season?
Well, they have all these. Now, I'll preface this by saying, in a typical year, before the era of COVID, you're sitting in really sweaty, hot gyms all summer. They have these super AAU programs and super AAU tournaments with hundreds of teams, and you kind of sit in the gym and you watch bad basketball for hours on end. Now, in the era of COVID, it's a little bit better, at least, because a lot of the stuff is digital, so you can see it online, and you can watch bad basketball from the comfort of your own home. So that's always good.
So with the practices, do you watch them virtually? Do they record the practices, or how do the high schoolers do that?
Yeah, so there has been a lot more virtual stuff, obviously this year because of the pandemic. But again, in a typical year, it's what I call grinding. So the grind is just going out to different high school gyms, AAU practices, just beating the bushes trying to find players that you feel like can help you and will be a good fit for the program and the university.
What would you say about like your top three? What do you look for in a recruit? What do you where do you start versus where do you end?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and I think the answer surprises people. Because normally you say, well, we need someone who jumps high, runs fast, who can shoot, who can do all these things. But what you'll find in the game of basketball is the intangibles of a person's character normally can tell you how someone's abilities will go from one level to another. Because the toughest thing in recruiting, to be honest, is, when you're recruiting high school kids, they typically are the big fish in a small pond. And, they don't really get challenged often. And because they're better normally than most high school players. But when they get to college and everyone is that, how do they handle that when they're no longer the big fish? And so what happens is a lot of kids struggle with that transition. Most freshmen do, and that's why I always say to our players that I feel like your college career are bookend by two moments, right? So you have your freshman moment when you play a little bit worse than your ability level because everything is new and you're trying to negotiate all that. Your senior moment is, you play above your ability level because it's about to come to an end and you don't want it to. And so on the other end, where you're dealing with freshmen, in the recruiting process, you have to see, all right, what is their character like? What is their toughness like? How do they handle adversity? And I feel like that is a bigger thrust and a tougher thing, to be honest, because you don't have to be, Dean Smith or Coach Calipari to see basketball talent, but you do have to be a special recruiter to see the intangibles.
So with character, when it comes to basketball, how do you measure that? Do you watch how they play throughout the game, how they react to a foul, maybe? How do you do it?
It's all that. So I'll tell you a story. The last school that our staff was at, Cincinnati University in New Jersey. So it's a Division III school, small school in North Jersey. And we went out to see a player who was averaging like 24 points a game. So, we were excited with the opportunity of recruiting someone like that. So we get in the gym, we sit down, and we start to watch the game. And, I was watching this young man when fouls were called against him. pouting. When his coach would try to say something to him to correct him, he would kind of wave him off. When he was told to come to the bench, he would walk and sit down at the end of the bench and look disinterested. And then of course when he was on the court, it's all about him, and he wasn't, playing team basketball. And so we left at halftime. We didn't finish the game out because, like, I knew there's no way that someone like this could be a winner. It's a winning mentality versus losing mentality, and I knew he didn't have it. So we got up and left right there. So
when you say pouting during fouls, right? It
right.
seems I don't follow basketball as closely as I do wrestling and other sports, but it seems that's kind of going viral where people are saying basketball is heading towards like the kind of men's soccer kind of thing. What do you say about all that? I'm sure you see it all over.
Oh, don't get me started. I'll get on my soapbox about this. I tell this to our players all the time. So, when I was growing up and playing basketball, I think it's different than how it is nowadays, because in my generation, we would always go to the courts and we would play against the older players, right? So, I was telling them the experience of how my summer would go. So I would bike about a mile to get to the local park. I would have to get there at 3:00 because I knew that all the old heads got off work around 5 and would be there around 5:20 to start playing pickup games. And me at 15, I knew I needed to be there early, because if I didn't, they wouldn't pick me up because I'm the young guy, right? Yeah. And so I'm there for like 2 hours in the hot sun, just getting loose and working out and going through drills. And finally, the older guys come to start playing, and I'm like the only one there. So they pretty much have to put me on the team, right? Now, there is no way, no chance in that situation, me at 15 playing against 30, 35-year-old men, that if I were to call fouls, that they would accept that,
Right.
So what happens is you toughen up. So these old guys, they beat you up. And if you call a foul, you'll never play at that park again, right? And so we just got used to playing through fouls. Nowadays, I feel like players are watching the NBA and how players in the NBA flop about, complain about every call, and it's become normalized.
Right.
It's normalized behavior, whereas that is wild to me. If you ask my team, I talk about this all the time. Complaining about calls. First of all, it does no good. Mm-hmm. And if anyone's going to complain about a foul call, that'll be me from the bench. And the only reason I do that is my eligibility ended in the mid-90s. So.
Yeah. How do you think that, because it can change. That can change. You can go back to the old ways because the way wrestling and the UFC is working. Like, do you got these competitors moving out of their weight class to find competition and to find that toughness, where you have other sports trying to get away from the toughness, get away from the competition?
For sure.
How do you think you give them that mentality to want to go find the competition instead of going away from it?
Well, at this level, you kind of foster it. You foster it in practice. Rebuilds are difficult. So we're in year 3 of a full rebuild of the program. And, I've been a part of numerous rebuilds up until this point. And that was honestly one of the selling points that I had in the interview process, when I got the job. Mm-hmm. And rebuilds, the first year is very difficult. Year 2 is probably even tougher because you recruit players that you feel like can help you succeed, but they're young typically. And, we talked about what freshmen are. And then by year 3, you should start to see some improvement. And once you get the roster to a level that you want, where there's competition for playing time at each position, right? Then you have super competitive practices. And because everyone knows if they take a day off, then the person behind them could leapfrog them in the depth chart. And that internal competitiveness drives good teams. And I'm just excited for our program to get to that point where our practices are like that, where there's super competition. And I say, there's no crying here. We're not going to complain about calls. You're going to learn how to play through contact because, and I say this often, the other team doesn't care that you're upset about a foul call. They don't care.
Right.
All they're concerned about is beating you.
So how do you make that be known as a coach, right? Because I come from a one-on-one sport, right? So where if the guy just beats you, you're done. The coach doesn't pick. If he beats you, it's whoever wins starts. So how do you, as a team sport coach, make it obvious that if they slack off, you're gonna start someone over them?
I mean, I verbalize it. Yeah, I verbalize number one, and then I follow through with my actions. So I hope that my players would say, the one thing about me is I kind of tell it like it is, and I feel like I'm honest with my opinion. And it is only my opinion. It just so happens since I'm the head coach, my opinion means a little bit more within the program.
Right.
And so if it's my opinion that someone is being outplayed, irregardless of whether that person was a starter the year before, or if that player is a walk-on versus a scholarship athlete, to me, it doesn't matter. In that moment, one man versus another, if you get beat out, you get beat out.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. And so I say it all the time. Probably some of the kids don't believe me when I say it, but when it happens, and inevitably it happens all the time, where someone you would think should be the starter or should be in the rotation, and they get beat out by someone who just works a little bit harder.
Right. Yeah. Did you see the what happened with Russell Westbrook and the fan throwing popcorn at him?
I did. Yeah, I saw that.
Some guys spit on, who was it? Trey something? Who was it?
Trey Young. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about? It seems to mainly happen in basketball, but the fans treating professional athletes like shit, just in general.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's no place for that sort of thing. People. I feel like sometimes when people go to professional games and the alcohol starts flowing a little bit, people feel like they can do whatever they want to do. Especially now, because I feel like everyone is just so wanting to get back to some sense of normalcy.
Oh yeah.
And it was super cool to watch, the Knicks play last night against Atlanta. And, there were people in the stands and, the New York fans were going crazy. And, everyone's excited about it. And, when the alcohol starts going a little bit, the fans take it a little bit too far, which obviously is unacceptable. And I think they found out the person who tried to spit at Trey Young, and that person has been suspended from many, Knicks game ever. But obviously there's no place for that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm hoping Clarion has fans back this next semester.
Oh my God, that'd be tremendous.
Have you talked about that yet?
I mean, there's been light discussions, but there's, it's a quick moving situation, right? What is the case right now may not be the case 5 or 6 months from now, or even 5 or 6 weeks from now. So all you can do really is be hopeful, be positive. I do have a dream in the back of my head that, come December and January of next year, there'll be people, in the stands and tipping. It's an incredible facility. And, I'm a little biased, being the head coach, but it's in my opinion, one of the nicer facilities in Division II.
No, a lot of people would agree.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way, and I'm just looking forward to showing it off, and then hopefully having a good product in terms of our program to kind of show off in the gym.
Do you guys have a camp this summer?
Yeah, we're doing elite camps this summer. We've already done one. We have one more in June 12th, and then one in August 14th. So Like I said, that is our main focus now, trying to get some campers for those camps. Moving into July, which is the true grind month for college basketball coaches in terms of going to the AAU events. It's an all July thing. So looking forward to that as well, to be honest.
Are you so with your camps? How is it working with COVID? Like, are they staying here for a week? Are they staying on campus, or how's that working with your high schoolers?
Yeah, so the university has stipulated that none of the camps can be overnight. So, I mean, it's all pretty much day camps. And what we're doing are elite camps, which are a little bit different. So they are basically a day camp, a 1 day camp. And it's really showing, it's for typically older campers, mostly high school.
Right.
And you're trying to get them an idea of how a true college basketball experience would be. So we treat it almost like an extended practice of ours. And then we give some advice on the recruiting process because, oftentimes parents, if they're going through it for the first time, don't know, how to promote their child, how to get them, the right looks, what the right fit is for them in terms of a school to go to. So we try to give a little bit of that information as well.
Now, when you travel for these AAU tournaments, how does AAU work for basketball? Is there a certain state they hold like nationals in or something?
It's literally all over the place. They have some in Pittsburgh. They have some. There's a ton on the eastern side of the state, and then there's some in New Jersey. It truly is all over the place. It's just a matter of where you want to go, and from what geographical area do you want to pull your recruits from? But it's all over the place.
What's the state for basketball? Because I know for like wrestling, like Pennsylvania is a state you go to recruit to. What in your eyes? What's the state for basketball for you?
I mean, there's talent all over the place. Most certainly in the state of Pennsylvania, but this state is unique in the sense that the population centers are on one side or the other, and the interior is not a ton of people. So you'll find super strong talent in and around Philadelphia, obviously, and in and around Pittsburgh. And so when I was an assistant coach at Millersville, the majority of our recruiting was in Philadelphia and around Philadelphia. But I am also biased. I, like you, am originally from Maryland, and
Right.
I feel like, Maryland basketball is very good.
That Baltimore basketball is good.
Baltimore basketball is good. I'm originally from PG County, so
Right.
shout out to Kevin Durant.
Right.
So I feel like that area drips with basketball talent. I live in New Jersey, and like I said earlier, as a head coach at Centenary, the New Jersey basketball is terrific. Terrific basketball. It's really deep because there's a lot of different population centers kind of peppered around the state, and it's terrific. So, I mean, if you look anywhere, you'll find basketball talent for sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm from that Baltimore area. I know about the basketball there. Wrestling is not so hot in Baltimore specifically.
Yeah.
We know. Pennsylvania is like the state you show respect to. I don't know if like basketball had one state. I don't know how it works. I need to follow it more. My goal is to follow more sports. I'm kind of like, wrestling and like getting into the MMA world. I don't know, but everybody loves football, but I gotta follow basketball. I played basketball actually when I was like 10 years old to 11 to 12 around there.
Oh, did you?
I sucked.
And you decided that you were better a wrestler then?
Yeah, I didn't start wrestling until I was like 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun. And then, like you were talking earlier, that high school to college transition, like I wasn't like super high level in high school, but when I got to Clarion at Division I level, like it was different.
Yeah.
My practice partners were harder than anyone I've ever wrestled before.
Yeah, of course. That's how college is. And, I can only speak for basketball in this sense. There is a basketball culture, probably based in the AAU culture, that makes kids think that they're all Division I players. And they think that Division II is a significant step below that, and that Division III is just awful basketball. And so that's the perception, and it is not the case at all.
Right.
Not the case at all. They're great players at every level. Great players at every level. In the PSAC, if they get into this league, they'll find Division I players all over, Division I talent all over the place.
Right.
And so to be successful in the league, we have to recruit players who essentially are Division I talents. And so when a high school kid comes in and is going, like, as you said, day in and day out against that level of competition, they say iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And so that's how it works out. It's a beautiful thing.
And you don't know until you get there, because when I got, it was a whole new world. So it wasn't my fault. I didn't know, but I feel like more high schoolers have to, at an early age, you got to compete against the college level guys. You got to throw them to the wolves, as they say.
Yeah.
And that's how, not until they get older, obviously. I say around 15, I don't know how basketball works, but in wrestling, you could just sign up for a college tournament, an open tournament, and wrestle red shirts and non-starters and stuff. I don't know. Can you do that in basketball?
No, it's a different thing, Right. Everything in basketball is pretty much based in your age group until you get to college. So even the AAU tournaments is 17 and under, 16 and under. So pretty much everyone is in their age class until you get to college. And then it really is culture shock for a lot of kids, because oftentimes, especially at a level like this, you'll have older students, kids who might have sat out a couple of years or whatever the case may be. You're 18 and you're going up against 23 or 24-year-olds. That's not atypical for this level.
It's grown men.
Grown men, for sure.
So when you're in, say, when you're and it's off season, your athletes leave campus, what do you tell them they should do when they all go home?
We specialize it. It's really cool. This is the first year we were really able to do it here because, obviously at the end of my first year, the season ended and then the pandemic hit and then we were rushed off campus. So we couldn't do some of the in-depth things that I would have liked to have done. So this year we were able to do it. Thankfully, we were able to get in 11 games this year. And I was able to, and my staff and I were able to assess kind of the strengths and weaknesses of each player. Mm-hmm. And working through the postseason, trying to, improve those areas that we thought needed improvement from each individual player. And so that when they go home, we give them each a different game plan on, all right, you need to attack this. You need to attack here. You need to get better in these areas to continue the momentum. And I feel like in our situation, we had a ton of momentum at the end of the season. We started the year 1-6, and we look like what you would think a team full of freshmen would look like. By the end of the year, we finished the season 3-1. The one loss was to IUP. And we were up 15 points at IUP's place, most of the game. Right. So there was a level of momentum that was kind of building throughout the course of the year. And we continued that momentum into the off season. Hopefully, the guys continue that momentum into the summer and then come out the other side improved.
Do you have them competing in the off season? Say if they're far away, do you tell them to join a league and go compete, or?
We really can't make them do anything of that nature, just based on NCAA rules. But I think typically basketball players want to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Players want to play. They want to play. And if you're a competitor, which hopefully we're recruiting competitors, you want to play against as good a competition as you can. And in every area, now we have players from all over the place, from, Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Germany. And they've all
Right.
gone home, right? Um, and they're all in their own ways of trying to seek out that level of competition to improve. Because at the end of the day, and I had this conversation with a good buddy of mine from back home, kids like to do the individual skill development stuff, dribbling through cones and, shooting versus chairs and stuff like that. But at some point, you're going to have to play against someone, whose heart is beating and wants to beat you. And that's how you get better, by playing against really good players.
I feel like that's every sport. You won't get better unless you do drills. They all have their place. Weightlifting has its place, but until you actually do the thing like live, like actual what's going on, can't get better.
Yeah. That's why kids nowadays, I feel like, are more skilled basketball players than most certainly like my generation. So, I graduated high school in the early 90s. Kids are far more skilled now. But in terms of the toughness side of things, is not the same. And I feel like it's not the same because there's far more of the skill development stuff and less of applying it on a semi-regular basis, playing, physical pickup games and stuff of that nature.
There's got to be a way to keep it old school, I mean, I don't know basketball much. Maybe someone's gonna figure it out one day. But like I said, with wrestling and like the UFC, somehow they're keeping it old school and they're not changing. They're going for it. They want the competition. They almost seems like they want to lose sometimes because they're going after the best guys.
Yeah.
Boxing is sort of going backwards, but I don't know what's up with boxing.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been accused of being an old school thinker, which is hilarious to me because, when I was the young guy looking at the older folks, calling them the old heads and stuff like that, never did I know. Never could I have imagined that one day I would be the old head talking about back in my day, But here we are.
You're always gonna turn into that. Everyone turns into that at some point, but
It happens.
you just gotta figure out like LeBron started out the league with the old school guys. He was 18, going. I felt like that was not a soft league he was in, and he
No.
sort of adjusted, and he's still great. So you could argue that what he's doing is great, or I know a lot of people hate him for what he's doing. He's like the one flopping. And he's sort of the leader. I think that's why everybody's following.
Yeah. He's
You
not
think
the
that?
only one now. He's not the only one.
Yeah, no,
And he is, I'm a LeBron James fan. He's a great talent.
me too. A lot of my friends hate LeBron James, but I don't know too much about basketball. I just know he's great because I've followed him for a while, and I feel like he's just adjusting to the newer generation, which is something you have to do, or you're just gonna fall behind.
Yeah. I mean, he's ahead of the curve on that sort of thing.
Yeah, older dudes who do that, they stay successful. If you notice, the older dudes who stay in the sport, any sport.
Yeah. You got to have your old man game. So, when you're young, you love to, at least in basketball, I can't speak with any other sport, but in basketball, when you're young, you want to show off your athleticism, because you have a ton of energy and, you're in the prime of your physical conditioning. But when you get older and the joints start hurting a little bit more and the knee isn't quite as strong as it used to be, you got to go into your old man game. And that's, using more of this and less of, this.
I don't understand, but I understand because I get this talk from a lot of people who are older than me. And no, yeah, but I respect people who stick around the sports for a while, even just as coaches. Do you go in there and play with your guys as a coach?
Oh, no.
No?
No. No. Now, I mean, I did it. As a matter of fact, I was, as an assistant coach at Millersville, I would jump into practices well into my late 30s, 36, 37. I'm 45 now, and I don't think that, I don't know if the body could keep up with the young guys. The mind could, most certainly. The body, I'm not too sure.
Who are all your assistant coaches?
So the full-time assistant coach is Mike McCready.
Mm-hmm.
he's, he's younger, you know. Um, we have Ewing Musa. He helps out.
Yep, I know you.
He's on campus. He helps us out from time to time. And Jack Galadio was our graduate assistant. And Jack, he was on the team the year prior, so he has a little bit of ability to him. And as a matter of fact, this year when we got hit with an injury bug pretty bad, and so our assistants had to jump into practice. So Mike and Jack had to jump into some practices. They didn't look too bad. But there was no way, no chance that Coach Pitts would be in there at all.
I'm sure it's good to have those young assistants with you who can go in there and sort of make an example.
Yeah, and then not only that, they help me because they're closer in age to the players.
Right.
They have an understanding of their mentality that I just don't have.
Right.
When I was a young assistant coach, I felt like I understood the pulse of the team from that side of things. And as I've gotten older, I have lost that pulse or that understanding of it. So, just understanding how this generation feels about certain things, and they help me a lot with that.
That's good to do that as a head coach, because I know Keith Farrell hired Brock straight out of college this past year, and that probably helps him a lot with the younger folks, just because Brock understands them, and just such an age difference that he can't relate to the younger guys, but I feel like it's like a straight connection when the young guy's the assistant to the head coach.
Yeah, I mean it's different in every situation. I feel like the head coach connects with players in a different way.
Yeah.
Now, because there's such separation in age, I have a level of life experience that I can impart wisdom to the young men. Yeah, that I didn't have that when I was 28, 29, but you learn some things over the course of years. And you can try to impart that wisdom to the younger guys. So the connection that I have with the team is more on those lines, where I can say, I understand where you are now, because when I was 21 or 22, I thought similarly. I felt the same way, and I made mistakes based on that. And here's my experience, and here's how I can help you, based on my experience.
Yeah, I'm about to turn 24 in 2 weeks, and over this past year or two, I find myself, or I would say the past year, I'm drifting away from like the college life and the college parties, and I love hanging out with older people.
Yeah,
the wisdom they have. I'm noticing that now that they're older than me and they know more, and I can learn so much more from just older people. And like looking back, that's what my head coach has had on me. You don't notice that when you're younger. You don't really appreciate your head coach that much. But when you get older and you look back, you really appreciate them.
It's a dangerous age bracket, the 18 to 22-year-olds, because you feel like you know a lot and you really don't know much.
Yeah.
You don't know much of anything. And actually, wisdom comes in recognizing that I don't know everything, and that I need to look to the right examples to guide me through, this difficult path. Life is not easy. Things happen, and how you react to those things and how you grow from those things will ultimately determine the person you are. That's why I enjoy coaching so much. I get that question all the time, like, why do you coach? And to be honest, it's really twofold. So I love basketball, right?
Right.
I love competition. I love the thought of beating other people and stuff. But more than that, I love the interaction with the players, the mentorship, the teaching. That is why I coach, to help young men kind of figure things out.
They need that. They don't know that they need it, but they need it. I know I needed it when I was 18, 19. I mean, I'm only 23, but I'm just looking back, and I was just an idiot. But it was all important.
Yeah. But it's not just you. Like, every 20-year-old in the world, 18 or 20-year-old in the world has no idea what they're doing.
I still don't. I'm 23.
Yeah, I mean, I barely do, and I'm 45, so don't feel too bad.
No, but Coach, thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you having me.
Yep, of course. Good luck this off season. Maybe I'll see you at the Mechanistic Brewery.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely be there.
Yep. All right. Well, I'll see you.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.